Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. Four-time Emmy and Golden Globe Award winner Jim Parsons has returned to the Great White Way in the new comedy An Act of God by 13-time Emmy Award winner David Javerbaum. It will play a limited engagement here at Studio 54, where we dropped by for a chat. Congratulations. First, welcome back to Broadway. How does it feel?
Having me. Oh, it's wonderful. This always is the most exciting place to be working, and at the same time kind of feels like home. I just love theater. Yeah.
How did the play come about for you?
One day my agent sent me an email and said there's this play and they'd be okay with you doing it. If you're interested, why don't you give it a read? And so I gave it a read and I was like, yes, I love this. Really? That was it.
It was that easy, huh?
Yeah. In this case it was, yes.
Talk about David as a writer and what you love about his work.
Well, he's very funny, which is hopefully a given because he does a lot of comedy. But the thing with this play specifically is that while it's very funny, it's extremely thoughtful. And, the topic, God, religion, he certainly has fun at the use of, at the expense of those subjects, but at the heart of it too, he's obviously is just very thoughtful and knowledgeable about religion in general, because you can't write certain points that, to me at least, get to a type of poignancy almost without having a deep knowledge of what you're talking about. So I don't know his personal relationship with religion, but he understands it very well.
Now, what can you tell us about the man that you play without giving too much away?
Well, he's God, and he made everything. And, a lot of what you generally think you know about God, a lot of it's actually true, but it just needs a slight correction at times. And that's why God has come here, to correct you.
I like that. Working with Joe Mantello again, and this is your first time as actor-director.
First time as actor-director. I've been begging him to do something for about 4 years now, since we did Normal Heart together on Broadway. And it just never worked out, both timing-wise, and I would bring him certain plays and never interest on his part, and I just thought, well, this isn't going to happen. And in fact, when I was approached with this play, he wasn't necessarily with it. Nobody mentioned that to me until I was interested, and they go, okay, now we think maybe Joe would do it too. And so I was thrilled, yeah.
And being back here at Studio 54, you have the fondest memories of being here at Harvey.
Yeah, this is an incredible space to work in. I mean, every Broadway house is incredible to work in one way or the other, because they're all distinct. There's so much history. This one in particular, and not just because, of its famous clubbing days, but there's just an ambiance here, and there's a real majesty to this place that is fun to work in general, but definitely suits this play in particular,
And did you just literally finish your season of Big Bang and go right into this?
Yeah, quite literally. No, we had our first preview about 8 days after rehearsals had started. First preview was our first run-through. In fact, we'll do our either 8th or 9th preview today, and I will still be saying before it, have a great 8th run-through. Because, I don't know any other way to look at it, And it's been really fun, and it's been a lot less scary than I thought it would, although, don't get me wrong, it's panic-strickeningly frightening. But at the same time, it's just been a joy. The audiences have been wonderful. And I really do get to talk to them the entire time. And some people may not think that sounds very good, but it could be scary. But it's a joy. It really is. Yeah.
I think I asked you this before. There are many people who are going to come to the theater for the very first time because they're seeing you in a show.
Yeah.
And sort of going to open their eyes to live theater.
Yeah.
What that means to you, Jim.
Oh, God. Well, in some ways, that gets to the very heart of the matter of why I'm an actor and why I'm doing anything that I do, whether you see me in TV or in a movie or on stage. Theater is really home base, and there's no other acting medium you can take a part in that the audience plays such a literal, active role. They're important to every medium in that way, depending on how they accept the material or what have you. But in this one, I don't know that people who go to the theater understand the importance of their part. Even if they watch something with a stony-faced silence, that is still just as impactful of an effect on the people on stage as hard laughing or sobbing or anything like that. You are an active part of theater and as an audience member. And I think that's why, for years you hear about the demise of theater. But that's not going to happen. I mean, because as humans, we enjoy doing this, watching this, being a part of this.
My final question is, I know it's all new to you, but what are you enjoying the most about being back and doing this show?
So many things, but the first thing that pops into my head is there's no joy quite like being here, living in New York, and feeling like an active part of what's going on the island. I have a job here, and having a job in Manhattan to me is just heaven.
First of all, welcome back to the New York stage and welcome back to Broadway. How does it feel?
It feels great. Being here is I have the same thrill that anybody who loves Broadway has. Just being here, being part of this. It's unique. It's the only place in the world. It's at this level, and it's Broadway. It's the best.
What has the whole process been like for you with working on this for the stage?
Well, I knew it was going to be a fun challenge to take something that previously existed as a written thing and as a tweeted thing and a bunch of sort of isolated one-liners, and to use those materials as a starting point to create something that was a larger 90-minute piece that held together as a unified whole and was a theatrical piece rather than just a bunch of one-liners being essentially read by somebody. And so that was the fun challenge of it, is saying, like, what can the structure be? How can we have a starting point and a middle point and an end point and feel very satisfying and feel like something that it was worth going to see in a theatrical context. And I think we've had a pretty good success at that.
How do you describe the show?
It's God and two of his archangels talking for 90 minutes, mainly God talking about his memories of creation and the first couple and Noah, and also talking about contemporary issues like Bruce Jenner, America, sports, all things contemporary usage of God, the way he's used in People Sneeze, for example. And then it ends with a nice big musical number.
God can say anything, can't he?
Huh?
God can say anything, can't he?
The great thing I discovered is that, yes, God can organically talk about anything. And as a comedy writer and a kind of a satirist, I want to be able to comment on things and doing it in a way that feels organic. And so adapting that voice has just been a way for me to be able to sort of have an excuse to comment on anything and everything I want to and feel like it's not apropos of nothing.
And working with Jim Parsons.
He was our first choice, and now that I've worked with him, I was so right to have him be our first choice. He's so funny and so likable and so beloved, and not only that, but when you have somebody like that, all the comedy comes out is maximized, and he sort of has an intrinsic license to say things that are not particularly likable and don't necessarily show off God's character in the best light because you like him anyway. The only person I can compare him to would be like what Stephen Colbert used to do in his character on the show, is that he would say things that on their surface were just absolutely terrible, but because it was him and because you could see the goodness and the humanity inside, you followed him. And Jim is on that level. That's the highest compliment I could possibly pay.
Do you remember the first performance on stage here in New York? What were you thinking that night?
I was thinking, this is not going to suck. And I've reached the first threshold of desirability. This will not suck. So I'm not going to be embarrassed by this. So that's a nice thing to just sort of go, okay, so now we can just focus on making it be as good as possible without worrying about it feeling terribly awful.
Well, the audience is that last piece you have to add into the mix, especially for comedy or for anything really, right?
Yes, especially for comedy. And the good thing about comedy is that it's very clear when a joke works or doesn't work. And sometimes you get a big laugh, sometimes you get a lesser laugh, but you feel like, okay, the lesser laugh is okay, kind of want that there. And sometimes you get a beat that just doesn't feel like right. You sort of have a visceral feeling. The air is kind of coming out of the room here. Let's either change it or cut it. And I'm always happy to cut. I have no allegiance to any one line. I've learned that over the years, that like I've killed thousands and thousands of jokes, my own and others, and I have no problem with cutting it because it makes it for a better piece.